This podcast is brought to you by Mr. Bishop. You know what's cool? Getting passionate about something. You know what's cooler? Getting passionate about getting other people passionate about something, especially when you can actually pull it off, even though that something in question is calculus. Mr. Bishop, cooler than cool in more ways than one. Welcome to Little, Middle, and Biggle. I'm your middle brother, Joshua.
I'm your little brother, Andrew.
And I'm your biggle brother, Noah.
And we are the ones who will answer your little, middle, and biggle questions that we all have in life. So today we are doing something different. We are all actually FaceTiming as we do this. So we can watch each other stare off into space as we say, uh. And I will start us off by giving us the little question. Um, uh, just kidding. So, my little question for today is what is something that everyone does just kind of as a social standard or just kind of out of habit that you think is a colossal waste of time? So, I will give
This is a
my.
great question for Joshua.
Yeah, oh man. I'll give my answer just for, I don't know, maybe some reference for you guys. So I was reflecting on this as I was folding my laundry, and my answer is folding underwear. Folding underwear is the biggest waste of time I think I take part in on a regular basis. That isn't
Hmm.
like something, an enjoyable waste of time. Because, like, the it's not like underwear has like pleats in it. I don't wear pleated underwear. And also, if I do not anticipate being at a point where somebody would be commenting on the wrinkliness of my underwear. And also, if they do comment on the wrinkliness of my underwear, I think that um, that is maybe an indication that the situation should go no further than it would be going otherwise.
Good answer.
Yeah. Tried to keep it concise because I know we can kind of ramble on the little questions, but
Yeah.
Yeah, the little questions are good ramble traps.
yep.
Andrew, do you have a good one off the top of your head?
I do. It's kind of a Joshua answer, though, because I know he's said it to me before. But I
Well,
agree with
but
it.
if you agree, then yeah.
It is texting, just in general. I mean, there are some cases when texting is fine, especially when it is not a time sensitive thing. But, like, if you, if it is 30 minutes before you're going to dinner and you need to figure out what you're wearing, you don't text and then wait 10 minutes for a response. Just call. And then you also figure out, like, who's driving and where you're going to dinner all at the same time.
It is one of the least efficient forms of communication I can imagine.
Yep.
It feels a little bit like writing notes on pieces of paper and then folding those up into paper airplanes and then like tossing them across the room at each other. And then
Yeah.
also there's the ability for people to just like pretend the paper airplane did not land right in front of them and be like, "Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was uh I don't know, walking my dog, pooping."
Pooping.
Yep.
Walking my dog and pooping at the same time.
Yeah.
There, it's all, texting has also led, I've noticed, which was a, um, something I definitely felt for a little bit, but it's led to a lot of people, at least in my youngest brother generation, not feeling comfortable talking on the phone. Like
Yeah.
they only want to talk on the phone with their close friends. And
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really like talking on the phone but I don't know if that's because I grew up texting or if it's just because it feels so awkward to talk on the phone. I mean, actually, I don't know if it's so much awkward. It's more like, actually, I take it back. I don't really mind talking on the phone. I just, a lot of the phone calls that you end up having to do, I feel like are, a phone call to a school or to a potential employer or to, something important. And then you call and you're like just sitting there waiting like, okay, I can't say anything silly. And then if it goes to voicemail, it's relieving, but it's also like, okay, well now whatever I say, it's recorded.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, now I'm gonna have to wait for them to call me back, and then it's gonna be on their terms, and that's just another whole bag of worms.
Yeah.
I don't really mind talking on the phone with friends, but I do know that for a long time it was like a really uncomfortable thing because I guess maybe just because I think or I know I'm a lot smoother when I can, have some time to gather my thoughts. And I am a like pathological editor of my own texts. Every time I write a text, I never just type it out and send it. It's always like I go back. I spend just as much time going back and like tweaking the punctuation and think like, oh, there would be a better word that I could use there to make the point a little bit clearer. I spend as much time doing that as I do actually typing out the first draft, you know?
Like the
So,
author you are.
yes, yeah. So, not having the ability to do that did make me a little squeamish for a while. But now, I definitely, whenever like I'm trying to figure out where I'm supposed to meet with someone when we're like meeting up, like for coffee or something, like I would so much rather they just called and said, "Hey, I'm under the sign with the snail on it," instead of like texting,
Yeah.
"Where are you?" Waiting, getting the text back. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, Noah, what's your yeah, time waster?
Man. Um I had one I was just thinking of. Okay. So I'm sure there are a million good answers to this. Um but two small ones came to mind. I don't know which one's better, so I'll just name them both real fast. So one is um is when you start or end a conversation with someone, especially in person, and when it's someone that you do not know, you're not super familiar with, there often is a weird, like, goodbye phase, you know? Like, you don't just get to the end of the information, you're like, all right, bye.
Yep.
Unless you're like in a rapid workplace or something, and it's like, all right, like we have a mission, like, hi, my name is blah blah blah. This is what we need to do. Good. You understand, repeat back, awesome, and you leave. But like there's this like weird dance of, like, all right, well, I have to go, you have to go.
Yep.
Can we go?
Yeah.
Which doesn't always happen, but it definitely can happen, especially when there's not a time constraint.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's just a social evolution to get us to know people better.
Yeah, that's a good thought too. I mean, maybe some of that is just how we're wired as social creatures, and it actually has a benefit over just, keeping it to a minimum. Not that I mean, I love talking to people, but the weird goodbye phase often is, feels
Uncomfy.
less beneficial. But anyways, my
Yeah.
other one was just the requirement of pants and other nice clothes. But I mean,
Leg prisons.
leg prison. Like when it gets hot out, I mean, there is still like attire that you are supposed to wear for certain scenarios, especially more professional ones. And I think that COVID has maybe taught us a little bit of the benefits of like sweatpants and underwear. If it's hot, you go underwear. If it's cold, you put sweatpants on, and you're always comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I've actually I've been thinking a lot about that recently because I often think, man, I wish I was born at a different time. We've had that conversation of like, what time would you be born into? And sometimes I think like, man, if I was just born like 60 years earlier, and then I think, what am I thinking? Because then I would have to wear like a wool suit year round, and
Yeah.
like it would just be expected of me, especially as like a doctor slash author.
Yeah,
Like,
you would be doubly expected to be wearing some kind of, I don't even know what the pattern is. The
tweed.
tweed. Is it tweed? I don't know if that was a material or pattern. Yeah, a tweed, suit, and
Yeah.
and a pipe and some classy spectacles.
Yeah. Like every time I see a picture of a doctor, like from KU, a doctor that has been like a benefactor to the college or something, they always, they're always like very pink white men with like, I can't think of how to describe it other than like bullfrog neck, where it's like they have the double chin that's like squeezed up out of their collar because they have their necktie cinched up so tight.
They look like they're
And they
mid
just,
ribbit.
yes, and they just look so hot and sweaty and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And
And like you just
yeah,
imagine, like what if those social constraints weren't there and they were there smiling in a Hawaiian, you know?
yeah,
Like they
in
would
underwear.
look perfectly in place.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah. So the moral of this is I'm glad to have been born in 96 and not 36.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the world can't force you to wear pants or tweed.
Yep.
Oh man, I gotta admit, the first thing I do when people talk about like coming home rituals and how that's a really healthy thing to do to like signify the end of the workday and stuff. For me, it's just off with the pants, and it
Yeah.
makes
Awesome.
life much better. Anyway, Noah, will you take us into the middle question?
Yes. So I had two middle questions written down, and we used the other one last time. So unfortunately, we have to use the slightly more embarrassing one for this one.
Great.
So the middle question is, what was your first kiss like?
Mine, flighty, I think would be the right word.
Flighty.
Yeah.
Excellent word choice.
So, um, I was with Sarah, obviously, I guess, because she's the only girl I've ever dated. She, I was driving her home. This was on Martin Luther King Jr. Day of 2014, and I know that because
Romantic.
I had, yeah,
Wow.
we had the day off from school, and it was a Monday, so we were like, wow, chance to hang out. That's not a Friday or Saturday. Sweet. So, and this was our third date altogether. Um, I walked her up to the front door of her house, thinking, okay, this is goodbye time, and gave her a hug, said, okay, bye. And she looked up at me and she just went, oh, like, kind of like a chicken, um, a very aggressive chicken. And I kind of received it more than gave it back. And then I turned right around and said, okay, bye, and ran down the stairs to my car, drove away as fast as possible, stopped at the stop sign at the end of the street, and then just like leaned over the steering wheel and was like, okay, that just happened. Yeah. You
Nice.
guys, go for it.
Man, I wish that we had video to go along with this so that everyone could see your impersonation of the peck.
Yeah.
Just imagine one of
Yeah.
those drinking birds. And that's what
Yes.
Joshua
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
except
Yeah.
vertical.
Except
Yeah.
Yeah, and imagine it coming straight at
At
your
your
face.
face.
Yeah.
um, I actually I don't really have a good story for this at all. It was uh, some random girl that I went to a football game with named Addie, not the Addie that mom is like friends with, of Addie and Adelie the twins, just
Mm.
another random. And then drove her home because I liked driving people around. And then the same kind of scenario happened, and then that was it. It's like, all right, bye.
Well, did you kiss her or did she kiss you?
Well, I mean both.
Okay. So you're
Um,
telling us your first kiss was just some random harlot woman?
Yes, it was some harleton.
Who was the initiator though? Who was the water bird in that situation?
Oh man, I don't even probably her. There's no way at that point that I would have felt comfortable initiating anything.
Mm.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was fine. She was a nice young girl. Um, that's yeah.
Did you actually go on dates with her? Because I do not
No,
remember. Yeah, okay.
no. There's. I think she really wanted that to be the case, and probably wanted the random football game that I went to with as a group with her and some friends to be that. And then I thanked her for the first kiss, and actually I didn't do that. I was just like, all right, we'll see you at
Nice.
school, and then like not I didn't really want this to go this far, but it's nice making new friends. So
Yeah.
What year of high school?
I don't even what it had to be junior year
Gotcha.
because I could drive, but was not dating Amber.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, that's part of my sneaky reason for picking this question is that I don't have any particularly embarrassing stories or anything for it, but I thought maybe Joshua would, and I really hoped Andrew would.
I don't know. Okay,
Uh,
so I've got to say slightly embarrassing from my perspective that it's like, oh, okay, well, see you at the cafeteria. You know.
Well, I mean, she was obviously trying to make advances on the dashing young Noah.
Okay, let's just be honest. Noah, you're a catch. You are the redheaded catch of the family. So not to be surprised.
the
Man,
red
But
herring,
Andrew,
but people actually want it.
herring.
oh wow. Oh wow.
Yep.
Okay, Andrew, redeem us from that.
Also, side note, people have literally told me. I don't know, Andrew, if they ever said this to you, but they've said like, "Wow, your brother Joshua, he looks like a model or something,"
Yes.
you know. But it may also be the way that he presents himself a little bit too, like very like calm and collected, and also very like incredibly well spoken. He may
Yeah.
just come across with that air of like being able to put himself out there, despite like any social anxieties that actually exist. Definitely comes across as someone who's just like, "This is me.
Yes.
Hello."
Wow.
And
That is
especially when you have
interesting.
your hair down. Because
Yeah,
whether you like it or not, you do give Fabio vibes.
yeah.
Wow. I never would have expected that. Yeah. Wow, this is when I'm regretting that we are doing this over FaceTime, so you guys can see me and ah.
That's okay.
Andrew,
I'm looking
redeem
out
me.
my
Redeem me
window.
with your awkward first
Yeah.
kiss story.
Okay.
Andrew
Well,
started
you
giggling
the
the moment I asked, so
Were you the water bird?
No.
No.
It
none
was-
of us were the water bird.
It was a
Yeah.
whole saga. Because we had been dating for like 3 months This was me and Libby, obviously.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Okay, Sarah and I, when I said it was our third date, it's because we had gone out on Friday and then Saturday and then Monday. We'd been dating for a weekend. I guess I'm a floozy.
nice.
Wow.
No, I'm
Me and
just
Kelly
bad
have been
at
dating for
dating.
like 2 hours.
Wow.
Harlot! I'm just kidding. That's just the word of the day. Um,
That and Waterbird. Okay, enough. What's the word I'm looking for? Putting it off.
yeah. So,
Fascinating.
Procrastinating.
so we we were friends with Addison, right?
Mhm.
And at that point, Addison had been telling me like, you need to kiss her. You need to kiss her. And so I was like, oh, okay, because I didn't know. And so one day I was dropping Libby off at Addison's house, and we were like standing on her front porch, and I was like in the act of leaning in, and she was too, and it was fine. Like neither of us were waterbirding. And then Addison opened the door, and so we didn't kiss, and I just like ran off to the car. So that's part one. Part two is Addison felt bad that she had interrupted, so she made me come back to her house that night and sit on the patio, and then just, for no apparent reason, Addison and Braylee walked inside, and it was just me and Libby out, and they just like expected it. And at that point, I talked to Libby, and we were like, "No, this is weird," because they're just waiting for it to happen. And then I feel like it was the next day. It might have been like a week, but I feel like it was the next day. We were just in the media room, and the credits of a movie were rolling, and I leaned in. So yes, I was the water bird. I leaned in, and she was like, "Ah!" And
Oh my gosh.
then I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I thought we were gonna kiss." And she was like, "No, no, we need to kiss. I'm just nervous." And that went on for a good 5 minutes or so.
I mean, that tracks with the Libby I know, honestly. The Libby I knew.
Well, then we finally kissed, and it was fine. And then she went home.
And
But yeah,
then,
Cool.
plenty of awkward.
wow. Yeah. That, yeah, that beats Noah's and mine by, yeah.
Yep. This is what I was hoping for. I was gonna be really disappointed if you guys were both like, "Oh yeah, it was Sarah or Libby or whoever." It was just a
Yeah,
little peck
it was lips,
and that
lips and
was it.
faces and, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for carrying
Also,
us through, Andrew.
I'm sorry
You're
that you had to
welcome.
go through that. That's like past the point of kind of funny, cringy sitcom high school romance and to the point of like, wow, dysfunctional, uncomfortable, real life high school romance.
Well, I mean, it was like summer between freshman and sophomore year. I didn't know what to expect, so I honestly didn't really think it was that weird. Even though, in retrospect, pretty weird.
Was that also the
But it didn't
time when
feel
I
weird.
walked into the media room, and you guys had been watching a TV show and it had gone to the point where like the screensaver was on and it was just like the scroll over of some big city and you had no shirt on and you were just very casually like, "Oh, hey, hey, Joshua, how's it going?" And okay,
Was not
great.
that time.
Okay, just wondering. Trying to fix it in my memory. Also, just because I had to throw that out there because Noah was fishing for embarrassing stories. Yeah, okay. Andrew,
Uh-huh.
big old question.
Okay. Well, this is more of a discussion question than each of us gives an answer. But I thought of it when we were talking about tweed suits.
Okay, great.
In reality, Why is style important to humans? Why must we be stylish? Why can't we all just walk around wearing burlap sacks? Or, leaves?
Well, specifically for those, probably because they're not as comfortable.
Well, yeah.
But that's a good question. If like, why not just wear, why not all be wearing unstained cotton?
Yeah.
Or some modern equivalent as we've improved our
Or underwear and a
technology.
Hawaiian,
But
whatever is comfortable instead of
exactly.
whatever is stylish.
yeah. But then the Hawaiian, even it has all the patterns all over it. Okay, I have some thoughts, but did you have other stuff that you were already gonna say?
No. More just a follow-up question, an expansion question, like why must it be both the right colors and the right cut at any given time? It's like the colors don't really change. I mean, they change to some extent, but over a long period of time, they don't change. But the cut of clothes does change.
That's
very
interesting.
much.
The way I took the question was like, well, why is it that we feel the need to like forego what is most appealing and or comfortable to us for the sake of style, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, that,
And I was thinking more like why style in the first place?
Like, how does it
I mean,
exist?
whether we have to forego something or not, like why do we care?
why do we care?
We're each wearing a, stylized attire of some sort.
Yeah.
Um
I want to protect our forests and prevent wildfires. Joshua wants to display Pizza John, and Noah is maroon.
and I have and I'm
So
What is your
for
graphic?
for the people who are not on this FaceTime call, i.e., everybody who is not us, Andrew is wearing a Smokey the Bear t-shirt. I'm wearing a Pizza John hoodie, and Noah is wearing maroon.
and I'm wearing you just can't see, but I'm wearing a Board to Beer shirt, which is the board game, event center / bar that one of my climbing friends has started here. So we're all
That's
representing.
awesome. Okay, is it not, a side note, is it not kind of interesting that we as humans with this whole graphic tee thing are like, hey, here's my chest. Advertise on me for $25.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's a way of being like, this is something that I really support, or this is an organization that has helped me in forming my identity, even in some very small way. You know?
Or
Yes,
they gave
that
me a
too.
free shirt.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
It's also happens. But generally, at least for all of us right now, that definitely fits. I think that probably is the case more
Yeah.
often than not for most people. At least with this kind of shirt, if it's not just like a,
Yeah.
that looks cool,
Yeah.
But so that kind of brings me to my thoughts on why we have the style. I was gonna go way back to the prehistoric era when we first had clothes. I figure there are like two main benefits that there would have been. One, just like having different types of clothes would have just benefited different scenarios, Like early on, it's unlikely that, one day there was like this group of, proto-humans that was like, wow, we're all ugly. We should cover ourselves with something that looks pretty, Like it was probably like, wow, it's cold. I don't want to die. Or, or like, wow, when Bert hits me with that big stick, it hurts less if I am wearing skin of buffalo.
Or, when I have to
So-
run, it is much less uncomfortable if all my bits are not jangling, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I figure it had to, I'm sure people have studied this in depth. So we're just kind of throwing our opinions out here. But surely that's semi how it started. And then at some point, it began to represent either your like class or position in society or the group that you're from, maybe not initially because they were trying to differentiate, but just because, oh, well, that tribe of people, they are hunters of this particular animal and they wear this type of clothes. That group, they are mainly foragers, and so they wear this type of clothes. And so that started to differentiate them. And then with our human minds liking to categorize everything, then that became, the first sort of styles. And then it probably just continued from there, because then once you see other people's identity a little bit as what they're wearing, and you start to see your own a little bit as what you're wearing, and they start to think like, well, what if I can change what I'm wearing,
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh, well, I can add these bits of decoration, or I can, make a nicer hide,
Or make it show my muscles.
Whatever, wool, show my muscles, what, yeah. And it, changes how they view themselves and or how the rest of the tribe views them.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much how it works today, right? Just on a really complex level.
Yeah. Now it's like showing off, in addition to the muscles, it's also, and like social status, it's also like your, how much you are willing to spend on money, which is kind of an indication of like how much money you have, how much wealth you have, but also like an indication of where your other values are. Like if all you, like, people make fun of celebrities. I was going to say a celebrity name, but I don't know any celebrities. Like, make fun of celebrities who spend $2,000 on a pair of shoes, and that's seen as like bad fashion, so to speak, for the larger
Well,
populace.
at least for us, I mean, some people, that's a big deal to them. There are whole groups of people that spend enormous amounts of time and money trying to like push fashion around in different directions, or figure out where it's going to go next, or make the next new design or whatever. And none of us find that particularly exciting. But I mean, maybe they're giving something to society that we don't see as much, because that's not the
Yeah,
art form
yeah,
that
okay.
we're
So I guess
Hmm.
in that case, it's like for those of us who don't see fashion as an art form as much, then it's like, wow,
hmm
what a waste of money. And then also, I don't know, like with thrifting and stuff, it's like I really value reusing stuff, and like I don't know, that's what I feel like thrifting is. Like I value being wise with my money and stuff like that. Yeah. But I don't know, all this has made me think of like what Andrew taught me
Yeah.
about the birds of paradise, about how they like make this fancy little nest for themselves with all these pretty colors and stuff to attract mates. And it makes me think like, wow, I'm just doing that on my own body. That's a little bit strange.
Yeah.
It is true.
Also, that's a really good
Yeah.
point. Attracting mates. That's probably one of the first
But okay,
reasons that
okay, okay.
style
Now
came
that I
about
think about
too.
it, it's like, but what I think a big function of fashion in that regard, at least, is it's a way of symbolizing like I have my life, I have my stuff together enough that like I can spend time and brain power thinking about, and like time and money and effort and brain power thinking about making myself look good. Whereas if you're like walking around in underwear in a Hawaiian, just like walking down the street in that, then it kind of gives off the vibe of, or it is not a big cognitive leap for at least my primal hindbrain to make to think like, wow, that guy, he must have some real problems that he can't put any, or he has to be like dealing with stuff at least that is precluding him from wasting time and effort thinking about fashion. Does that make any sense?
But
Yes,
then,
that makes total sense.
yeah, it totally does. But then to add a slight layer of complexity to it, sometimes I guess this is not that, I don't know, this is more of a secondary thing that I've heard from Win, my, you know, freshman,
Mm-hmm.
sophomore year college roommate who is much more into the, fashion side of things than I ever care to be. But I remember him talking about at these big, actor parties or, networking events, basically, that often the most poorly dressed person in the room was the highest class individual, because you dressed up super nice to make a good impression. And eventually, like, as if you were already the person people were trying to make a good impression to, you just showed up in like a t-shirt or like, something comfortable, which I'm not saying applies in the same, applies everywhere. But
Yeah.
it adds this weird layer of complexity that it's not just someone wears something, this is the message it sends. It has a different
Yeah.
message to different people based on the situation and based on their background.
So it's not so much that style is an indicator, or fashion, that is a better word, is an indicator of like social hierarchy status, but as a tool to show it.
Yeah. And that,
Yeah. Or even just other social things too. What you're interested in, what, what your priorities are, what colors you like,
yeah.
whether or not you're obviously colorblind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird.
I don't know, Andrew, since you are the most fashionable of all of us, do you have any final thoughts on that?
This is a good point. Andrew has literally picked some of my clothes
Yep.
over the past year because
Ditto.
he's like, you need more fashion, which is probably true. Okay, I'm glad it's not just
Well,
me.
I liked what you said about people who dress nice have their lives together.
Yeah.
Gah. No, I do not particularly have my life together, but I think that is true to some extent. It's like certainly different with certain personalities and stuff. My personality just maybe lends itself to it more, but more of a priority to show that to other people, that I am comfortable in my life. Not comfortable like economically, just comfortable being me.
With yourself?
It is a priority.
With yourself.
Yeah. Well, but I don't know. I feel like we still can't generalize fashion as just a tool to make yourself look good, because there's so many different kinds of people, and so many different people do not care at all. Like you, Joshua, but they are still leading like a successful life.
I think, yeah, it is a tool whose functionality depends on the person wielding it.
Yeah, and its effects depends on the people
Yeah.
perceiving it too. Because at the end of the day, wearing a certain color doesn't really make a huge difference if you're in a city and not trying to camouflage yourself from, a hungry lion, or, I guess trying to block some sun if you're wearing like a white shirt versus a black shirt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it has very little effect that is not in our heads.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to think about how much of our entire society and everything, all the details, not the functional bits, but the detailed parts of it, are just, are important only because of looking in, our own heads.
Only important
because of how we perceive them.
Only important because we assign them importance.
Yeah. It's like, if you go down into a subway or something and you leave the main, or like you look down the tracks or whatever, you leave the area that's meant for people to be in, it starts to get very utilitarian. Like, this is not pretty. There's nothing about this that has a particular function for our own, perceptions. It's just, this is a hole It needs to be a hole in the ground. It needs to not cave in. It needs to have 2 strips of metal going down the middle.
Yeah.
You know, it gets, but like you get up to the surface and everything is very based on our
No,
perceptions.
okay.
Okay,
Funny thing
now I'm
about
going off on a
that
tangent.
comparison,
Yes.
though, is it also is applicable to the other type of subway, meaning a sandwich shop. It's just a hole, and it is as functional as
Oh,
possible. Nothing pretty down here. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
That's a very good
Okay, well,
point.
on that note, now that we've ruined that as a potential sponsorship, I will go ahead and roll the credits. This podcast is created by the three of us, written by none of us, and edited and produced by me, Joshua. Hopefully, it's also listened to and enjoyed by you, but no pressure, hey? I've always felt like there needs to be a preposition there. Like, hopefully, it's also listened to and enjoyed blank by you. Or I think,
Enjoyed. I
Thoroughly.
don't know.
yeah. Or that's not a
That's not a
preposition, that's an adverb.
preposition.
But I think it's just because listened to is like a verb phrase. And yeah. Anyway, oh man, where was I in the credits?
That makes sense. Okay.
Uh,
No
What about
pressure,
you?
hey?
Hey,
hey,
you were
hey,
after. Hey.
we have an email. I'll just throw it out there. Littlemiddlebiggle at outlook.com. You can still be the first. And love, thanks. Join us next time as we unravel more of the world's big secrets or just get tangled up in them. We'll see how things go when we get there. Love, thanks, and TRX hugs from all of us. We couldn't have done this without you. Say bye, everyone.
Bye.
Meh.